First of all, the devil is a liar. And the reason why I have to start off the video with that is because I need you to understand how clever the devil is at infiltrating your mind. But I'll get into that later. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was until about a year ago. But looking back, I've always felt that. I just didn't have a name for it. So before I go any further, I just want to go over the definition of imposter syndrome just so I can make sure we're all on the same page. Imposter syndrome is the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally despite being high performing externally. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud or a phony and doubting their abilities. I think it's a difference between knowing what you need to work on and knowing what you need to improve versus perfectionism. Feeling like, oh, because I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not capable. Yes, you are capable because guess what? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. It's when we try to do it by ourselves, when we try to exclude God and say, nah, I got this, I can do it on my own. No, you can't. And that's the reason why you feel like a fraud. You feel like an imposter because you are not relying on God to help you. You were just trying to do it yourself. You were just trying to make it be your will. I think a lot of times imposter syndrome is caused by childhood trauma or some form of neglect or your parents and guardians not pouring into you the way that you needed to be poured into. Or it could simply be from your elders, parents, whoever, whatever adults were in your life, them negatively programming you with lack and limitation, telling you, oh, you need to have a plan B. That's not realistic. Maybe you should do this instead because you're not guaranteed to be successful in this, and that's not going to make you money. All these different thoughts that come from other people, those seeds get planted into our head, and that's what causes us to have doubts in ourselves and in our abilities, and even have doubts in the desires of our heart and what we want out of life. So, in other words, we forget who the fuck we are. We forget who we were when we came here because we let other humans tell us who we are. We let our trauma tell us who we are. We let the devil tell us who we are. And I know there's going to be somebody out there like, what does the devil have to do with this? Why'd you bring him up? I'll tell you what he has to do with this. He has a lot to do with this because he tries to instill thoughts of fear. He tries to instill thoughts of doubt. He tries to instill thoughts of anxiety and worry because guess what? The scripture says God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and self-control. So if the spirit of fear don't come from God, who do you think it comes from? It comes from the opposition. God tells us not to be anxious about anything, but to pray about everything. So guess what? When you give into imposter syndrome, you are allowing the devil to work through you because you're operating from a space of fear and anxiety. And like I said, God does not give us a spirit of fear, and he tells us not to be anxious about anything. So when you feel like an imposter, you feel like, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. That's blasphemous because we are created in God's image and likeness. So if you feel like you're not worthy, you're pretty much saying God's not worthy. And that's far from the truth. I was having a conversation with one of my really good friends, very talented, very gifted. And she was telling me how some of the gigs that she's done, she didn't get paid for. I was completely shocked because she's really in high demand. Like, I was shocked that number one, people would ask her to do something without offering to pay her. But number two, that she would agree to it and say yes. I'm like, girl, do you know who you are? Like, you are in high demand. Not only should people be paying you, but they probably should be paying you more than they do. And she went on to tell me, like, yeah, well, I just, feel bad if I, ask people for money. Like, I feel bad about, asking people to pay me. I don't want to, come off, like a bitch. Like, I always want to just, kind of be a people pleaser. And I told her, no, you need to know your worth. You need to know your value. Just as you feel like, oh, I feel bad for, asking them for money, they should feel bad not offering you money because you're good at what you do. And I was telling her, you probably struggle with imposter syndrome. Sure, you can say you want to make a living off your gifts and your passions, but subconsciously, You don't feel like you're worthy of that. And that's the reason why you settle for whatever people offer you. You let other people tell you how much you're worth instead of you telling other people, like, look, respectfully, this is what I'm worth. This is my price. If you want to pay me that, great, awesome. We could work together. If you don't want to pay me that, that's fine too. It's no hard feelings, but respectfully, I'm gonna have to decline. I told her I used to struggle with the same thing, but there was a situation that really made me change my perspective of myself, and it made me realize, Kyla, you're selling yourself short. You need to stop settling and you need to know your worth. I was asked to perform for an amount that I never been paid before. So I was just kind of shocked, like, you gonna pay me how much to sing for 15 minutes? So I felt kind of, imposter syndrome. Like, I can't believe they're gonna pay me this much to just sing for 15 minutes. Like, subconsciously, I felt like I wasn't worthy. Like, I just felt like, oh my God, I can't believe that they would pay me this much. So we ran into a problem where they had to cancel the performance and reschedule it for another day. And I'm just like, well, I've been here for a couple of hours. The work that I do to pay my bills, I didn't do that work today, so I could be here. So, I'm gonna need a little more than what you guys originally offered me. And I felt bad for even saying that. And, the director, he's like, how much are you willing to do it for? Like, how much more would you want us to pay you? And I felt bad about saying too much more than what they were already paying me. So I think I bumped the price up to only like $25. And they were offering to pay me more than that, but I was like, no, just give me an extra 25 and I'll do it. And there was a girl that was there that was, helping us set up and everything. And she, after, the director, walked away, she was like, don't do that again. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, never sell yourself short. If they're offering you a price, don't knock it down and say, oh, if you offer me 300, instead of doing it for 300, I'll do it for 275. No, don't do that. If they're offering you a bigger price, you have to feel like you're worthy of being paid that. And don't ever go lower on the price. Like, you're lowballing yourself. Don't do that. And her telling me that really changed my perspective and my perception of myself. Because I'm like, Kyla, you don't realize how much you're worth. And you downplay how much work and time you've put into your craft. You have been going to open mic nights. You started singing in front of people and recording and doing all this probably like 8 or 9 years ago. Like, you've been doing this for a while. You've put in the time. You deserve the benefits. You deserve to reap the benefits. Stop selling yourself short. You don't have to be perfect to do what you love. You don't have to be perfect to reap the benefits of doing what you love either. As long as you have a calling, you have a burning desire to do something, and you're honoring that calling, you are worthy. If you are making progress every day in your calling, you're worthy. You don't have to be perfect to fulfill your purpose. You don't have to be perfect to fulfill the desires of your heart. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Somebody can have way more qualifications than you on paper, but somehow you still get chosen because of your spirit, because of your favor. And that's why it's so important to be obedient. Sometimes your purpose might terrify you. You at your full potential might terrify you. So guess what? You run from it. You try to be realistic and conform and just say, okay, I'm going to come up with this safe plan for my life, even though soulfully, spiritually, deep down, that's not what you want. You know that you're settling. I'm not going to lie. I almost settled. I almost settled for this safe life that soulfully and spiritually, I know that's not me. I know that's not what I want. I told myself, once I get out of high school, I'm going to get an associate's or a master's degree in business, and I'm going to become a job coach at a call center. I'm going to become a supervisor at some type of office. Or better yet, I'll just go to school for psychology. I'll go to school to be a social worker because, I've always loved helping people. Like, I have a passion for helping people. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go to college and get a degree in either social work or psychology, or like I said, maybe just get my degree in business and become some type of supervisor or job coach at a call center or office, or some type of corporate company, and I'll be stable. Like, I'll be making a good living, I'll be financially stable, and yeah, that, I'll get married, I'll buy a house, I'll have a kid, and the end. But soulfully and spiritually, I knew that's not me. That's not what I want. I've always been a rebel. I've always been kind of a wild child, and I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to take the unconventional route, because I know if I just take the safe route, I'm not going to be happy. But you know what I've always been happy to do? Sing. What I've always been happy to do was teach. I was 8 or 9 years old acting like I was a preacher. I remember we had this one church service, and after the church service, we were so fired up that I was like, yeah, once we get back to Godmom's house, let's have our own little church service. And my god sisters and my friend, they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, I'm gonna be the preacher. And we went in that basement and I started preaching. We was just some little kids playing around. But next thing I know, we was all crying from me preaching whatever I was saying as a little ass kid. So I've always known I'm meant to inspire people through, I guess, my wisdom that God has given me, and through my music, which also, I will share messages, from God and the wisdom God has given me through my music too. And to this day, inspiring people through my singing and my speaking, those are the two things that give me life. There's nothing else I would rather be doing. I never have regrets like, oh, I wish I would have finished college. I wish I would have got my degree. No, I'm actually happy I didn't. I actually wish I wouldn't have went in the first place. Not trying to discourage anybody from, not going to college, but it just wasn't for me. Like, I really only went because I was pressured to go. And don't get me wrong, even though, yes, I dropped out of college and I said, F this, I'm going to just pursue my dreams, I'm just going to do what I love, it wasn't easy. I was terrified the whole way through. I even have times now where I am terrified, but I just pray and ask God for strength. And it's like, whether I'm terrified or not, I'm going to still do it because I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I was to shift gears and say, you know what, I'm going to stop doing YouTube, I'm going to stop making music, and I'm going to just go back to college, I'm gonna just get a 9 to 5 with good benefits or whatever. If I was to take any different route than what I'm on now, I would not be happy. I would really be an imposter then because I wouldn't be being true to myself. I've even struggled with imposter syndrome during my spiritual journey. I'm not gonna lie, I used to be a very wild girl. Not in a good way. I used to be very self destructive, promiscuous, judging people, gossiping about people, just being a real bitch. And there's times where, a little voice will creep into my head like, this isn't really you. You're a fake. You're a fraud. Remember what you did 5 years ago? Remember what you did 10 years ago? Remember when you used to wild out and do this and do that? That ain't nothing but the devil. That ain't nothing but the devil trying to keep me stuck in the past because he doesn't want me to see how great I'm going to be in the future and how great I already am. And it's like me being sweet and kind and loving, that's who I've always been. I'm not no imposter. I'm not faking and, oh, I just want people to think I'm a good person. So I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to rebrand myself. No, this is who I was always destined to be. This is who I was when I originally came to this bitch. But because of certain traumas and things I went through, that made me hard. That really changed me and made me develop this persona that wasn't really me being bitchy and judgmental, and like that's not soulfully who I am, because guess what? My mom told me I was her easiest child. When I was born, I was an angel. I was so sweet and loving and kind. So it's like, that's who I really am. That's my true essence. Let me tell you something. When you have a burning desire to do something, literally, like something is calling you to do it, you have to do it. Ain't no imposter syndrome. When you walk in with God, because God is real, God ain't no imposter. So you can't be no imposter because You were created in God's image and likeness. Unless you're not a child of God, then that's a different story. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this video helped you. If it did, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.